Alright, so today I'm going to be doing a review on the Wagner Project Pro 117. This is the little airless spray gun with about 15 metres of hose and the spray gun attachment. The reason I've got this is because I've got quite a large area of weatherboards that I need to do and also a bit of brickwork. The weatherboards are a little bit tricky to paint with the roller, so this is going to come in perfect. And because we're over 2 stories, we're going to be up and down in between the scaffold, so a long hose is going to make a little bit of a difference as well. So what you're going to see is this in action, see all the painting being done, and then I'll come back and give you a review on how I think this performed. Okay, so once you've connected the spray hose nice and tight, the next thing we're going to do is put on this connection. Now the way this works is the larger, say 15mm hose, goes straight onto the bottom here. That'll do it hand tight, and then this other little smaller one goes into that little connection on the side there. So the way that works, this little one is actually for priming, and the big one is what's going to suck the paint straight out of the bucket. So we can drop that straight into the 20-litre bucket, and then we'll have another smaller bucket just off the side to prime the machine up, get the paint through, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so we've got the machine all hooked up. What we're going to do now is get it ready for paint. Now I'll just talk to you about the tips. Now with these, with the gun, this one's just a handheld gun straight off the 15-metre hose, and it's got a 517 tip in it, which is this yellow one here. Now, the way this works, the number on the tip, sorry, this one's a 215. What that means is the 2 stands for 20 degrees, is the throw of the spray, and the 15 is the thou, 1/5 thou of the hole, the thickness of the hole that the spray comes out of. So, the standard one that we're going to use, that's more for a little bit of probably finer spraying. The one I'd like to use, which is pretty much the standard industry for wall paint, is a 517. Now the 5 stands for a 50-degree throw, and the rule of thumb is you can basically double that, which will give you the distance of the actual spread of the spray. So because it's 50 degrees, times it by 2, and that's going to give you 10 inches. So think 5 inches for the 5, times it by 2, that's going to give you like a 10-inch throw. But at 50 degrees and 17 thou is the thickness of the hole that spray will come out of. Like I said, that'll do most wall plates. If you go a higher viscosity paint, you'd want to go for a higher number in the actual tip. If you go for a lower, like a finer paint, you start going down in numbers. But again, you'll see that on the tip details. There is a chart that Wagner has, and I'll give you a link to the website so you can look up all those technical details yourself. But what I'm going to use is the 517 in the handgun and also in the extension tip. Alright, so what we need now, basically a bucket, and this primer line is going to go into that bucket, and then we're going to take our 20-litre drum of paint, and this main line will be going into that. But before we start off, we can try this with a bucket of water and a sheet of cardboard, just so that we can test out how the machine runs, just to make sure that we're happy with the spray, how it's adjusted, and then we can put the paint in it and we can jump straight into the application. So what you can see on this handle, it's got this lock feature. Flip that over and you can't move the trigger. It's quite handy for this gun because it's got close to 3000 psi, so quite a lot of pressure that comes out of there. And if you don't have that locked and you happen to pull the trigger and your hand's in front, you can get paint injections into your hand. So make sure that's locked when you're playing with it, make sure the gun's off until you get it all set up correctly, and then flick that on just when you want to paint, and away you go. Alright, so like I said, we're going to test this out with a bucket of water first before we do the paint. Now we drop this main one into the water, and this second one will go into the priming bucket. Before we do that, I'll show you on the machine. On the side here, you've got the spray, and then you've also got prime. So when you flip it to prime, that's when it'll prime the water down into the actual water of the paint, into the bucket. Once it's primed up, you know it's good to go. Flick that back to spray, and then you're right. On the other side, we've got the pressure adjustment. This can either be taken right down or right up. The trick with this is to drop it down as low as possible, just till you see the tailings coming out each side of the spray on the gun. and then increase the pressure back up until they disappear, and then that should be the perfect amount of pressure. So we'll play around with that a little bit. Okay, so the machine's now got power to it. If I switch this on, now if I flick this to prime, see the water coming out of there. So I flick that back to spray, and now it should be ready to go. The way this machine works is it's airless. So basically it's got one piston in it that pumps, and it builds up the pressure inside the machine itself. That's why we don't need a compressor tank. Alright, so now what I'll do is I'll try this out on a bit of board. We'll make sure we get our spray right. We'll adjust the tip and the nozzle to how we want it, and then we're good to go. Okay, so now that we've tested it with some water and a bit of ply, we know the pressure's right. We can now substitute that bucket of water for a bucket of paint, and then we're pretty much good to go. So we've got the tip adjustment right, we've got the pressure okay, let's start spraying. Okay, now that's into paint, I'm going to switch it to prime, get the water out of the line until the paint starts coming through into this other drum. Then I can test it out through the nozzle, and then we should be good to spray. Okay, so all the water's out of the line now. We've got paint coming through the bucket. Good to go. Alright, so we're done with the first coat. Pretty bloody impressed at how this thing's performed. I've done the whole top floor walls up here, probably in about 30 minutes. The biggest part of this was really just the prep work, you know, getting everything bulked up, getting everything gap filled, doing the cutting in. Once this thing started, we had this fly, 30 minutes, the whole thing, and I reckon I've done 2 coats. I'm still going to get back over it tomorrow and give it another coat, but very, very impressive on how quick this thing can actually get some walls painted. Unbelievable. Alright, so what we're going to do now is actually just give it a bit of a clean up. So we're just going to repeat the process like we did before of putting the 20 litre bucket of paint there, but we're just going to swap that over for a clean bucket of water. Prime it, get the paint coming through, clean it out, spray the gun a little bit just to get the paint out of the line, and then we're good to go. Down to the final stages of our spraying project. We're going to be using the Project Pro to basically finish off our feet of the deck out here, and that should wrap up the use of this little review for the spray gun. Now, I've literally haven't been using this gun for about 2 months. I used it to do all the external work on the outside of the house, and then in between having our second baby and trying to get some of the internal works finished on the house, it's basically just been sitting here. So all I had to do was take the nozzle with a line full of paint and just drop it into that end bucket there. So it's been sitting there, like I said, for close to a couple of months now. So today I've gone through and I've cleaned it out. And all I needed for that was one clean bucket of water and an empty bucket. So I dropped the nozzle into the clean bucket of water, primed it up, and then just sprayed all the excess paint into the empty bucket. And that's basically just blown the line out. It's come up with clear water, so it's perfect. All I need to do now is just give the nozzle and the gun itself a little bit of a clean down, and then we're good to go. So I'll run the new white paint through that. That's what I use to paint the ceiling. And in conjunction with that, I'm going to be using this extension arm. So I'll put that on the end of the nozzle, be able to stand on the ground, and I'll be able to spray above. So after you see that, that should complete the review of this little Project Pro.
Alright, well there you have it. You got to see the spray gun in action. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little video review. If you have and you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like or give it the thumbs up. We'll catch you next time. Cheers guys.